Hi, this video is going to be about the cooling system of the Rekord SC and the thermostat in particular. The video also applies to fuel-injected Monza and Senator A's, but also fuel-injected Rekord E's. They all potentially can suffer from that. So what I often see is that a customer, or I had them even here, a customer has an overheating bidet, and it turns out the wrong type of thermostat. I'm not talking about the wrong temperature, the wrong type of thermostat is installed, or no thermostat at all. And although it seems counterintuitive, if you have no thermostat, that the car should overheat, but I'm gonna explain later in the video why this is the case. So there are two types of thermostat. This here is the incorrect one. That is the one that's typically installed when the car overheats, and that is the correct one. And they differ with this little plate here. So the thermostat, this type of thermostat, opens and closes, and that is it. Water flows or it doesn't flow. This one, on the other hand, it opens and closes as well, but it also extends this little stem here and puts that plate down on a part in the thermostat housing where it then switches between two cooling circuits. So it's important that you have this. I have a Senator in Germany that I got in '98, and it was overheating. Not so much when I was driving, but when I came to a stop. So if I was going 200, 180, 200 on the Autobahn, and then arrived at a stop sign, when I got off the Autobahn, the oil pressure would collapse and the oil light would come on. The only remedy around that was that I would start 2-3 kilometers before the exit to slow down to 80 or to 100 kilometers per hour and be between the trucks, and then I could basically drive the car cool. Also in the winter I had absolutely no heating, so I was driving with cold feet and I couldn't understand that. And then I checked, and of course it had the wrong thermostat. It had one of these instead of one of these. So this video is about that. Now we are looking at the cooling system of a Rekord D, which is very similar to my Monza 2.8S, and it's a very simple system. The suction side is here on the water pump, and basically when the thermostat is closed, nothing is going through the radiator. That means the pump sucks water from the heater back here, through the heater hose, into the engine block, up into the head, out here into the thermostat housing, and back into the heater. So this is a thermostat housing. This is what it looks like. So basically it goes back in here, and either if that is closed, it goes out here again, back into the heater, or it goes out to the front into the top of the radiator. And that is when the thermostat is open. So when the thermostat is open, the water pump is going to suck water from the bottom end of the radiator, pushes it through both, sucks it from both heater and radiator. So we have a heater control valve that we can open or not, and then, as I said, engine cylinder head out here, and a part will go back to the heater, and most of it will go here into the radiator, through the radiator, and back to the bottom hose. So the first one was the small circuit to warm up the engine quickly, and the other one is the regular operation when the engine is hot. Okay, now to the cooling system of the Rekord SC 356 to be precise. And as I said, it also applies to Monza and Senator A, as well as fuel-injected Rekord E. So here again we have the water pump down there, which has two ports, and it sucks when the thermostat is closed. Thermostat housing sits here. Then it sucks through the heater hose, and also sucks from the throttle body heating into the pump, into the engine, and then out, then it branches off out the side of the block into the heater, and back here, this line so it comes back here, and also part of it, most of it goes into the head and then comes out this way. So this is what the thermostat housing looks like. This is the mounting bits for the auxiliary air valve, and we are coming, when the thermostat is open, from the lower radiator hose into this, and we go to the water pump in that 90-degree hose. Then this one goes to the throttle body heating here, that comes from the heater hose, and then also this one is this hose that goes to the thermostat, to the expansion tank. I will show that later on again on the table. And then that also means that there is no water flowing here, and there should be no water flowing here. I'm not sure about the volume of water that flows, and here should also only be drawn as much as comes back here. And then when the thermostat opens, it switches, and then water comes from the lower radiator hose, goes directly into the water pump, comes back here and goes up to the top of the heater. But that is the trick. There is two heating circuits basically that are being switched, and that is going to be shown later in drawings to make it more clear. So this is a timing cover, a water pump, and you either have a water pump where the pulley is pressed on, or you have one with the flange where you screw your pulley on. And then this goes here, and this up here is the plane that the bottom end of the cylinder head and the upper end of the engine block is also part of. So this is how it's located, and then you're either, when the engine is cold, the water pump sucks in through this hole, or if the thermostat is open, the engine is warm, it pulls in through the big hole, and that comes from the bottom end of the radiator. And then of course it pushes it into the engine block here. So these are the two thermostat housings again. This for the easier system with the carbureted engines that doesn't concern us with the bitter. But come on. So this just there's a smaller hole here that connects to this, and this is the main return from the head, and the thermostat sits in here like this, and it opens or closes, and this means there's no difference. It's either water does or doesn't flow, and that is all this does. And as I said before, it's much more complicated with the bitter. Here first of all we have 5 ports. We have actually 6 ports, including the return from the cylinder head. But if you put this in here, you open or close the return to the radiator, the top radiator hose. That's it, and everything else is just open and unrestricted. What needs to happen? You can see this little rim down here. This, I'm going to show that also by boiling these guys. This opens up here, which opens up the flow to the radiator, but it also extends this little plate onto that rim, and then thereby closing this off and forcing water coming in here and going into the water pump. And that is the crucial difference that makes the difference between an overheating car or a not overheating car. So that I'm going to show that in a drawing also. One big thing seems to be also that the thermostat needs to be from here to here 31 millimeter. There is a version that has only 29, I was told, or I read online, and then this might not completely close. This one, I think down here is something like 38 or so millimeter, and this extends, or that tries to extend to 44, so then it really clamps down on this port. And I also have two different types, two different temperatures. This is an original 92 that works in the car, that's original to the car. But the older cars in Germany, 78, 79, had 80-degree thermostats, and I found an 82 here, and that is the one I use because in North Carolina we get up to, in extreme summers, 40 degrees, and that is without heat index. And then I'm much more comfortable to have a cooler thermostat in the car. This, at least on 5 or 8, tends to open just when the electric fan comes on, so the electric fan is almost on all the time, and if you have this thermostat, that's not the case. Anyway, so that's that so far, and now I'm going to show everything in terms of diagrams on the computer. So this again is the cooling system in terms of schematic, and this is the one showing the one of the Rekord D that I showed in the beginning. The water is being sucked from the heater through the water pump into the engine, then back out of the cylinder head into the thermostat and back into the heater. That is the small cooling circuit, and that is when the thermostat is closed. So this part here is blocked off as marked by these little interruptions, and the 8% is what I just calculated with equal pressure. The ratio between this area and this area is 8%, so the basically over 90% go through the cooling circuit, the radiator, if the radiator is open. So once again, this shows cooler, so not really cold. And in this case, of course, the engine is cold, so this is blue, the cold side, and the red side is warm. So warmer and cooler is probably the right way to describe it. This is the same cooling system with the thermostat open. Once again, the water pump sucks it from the heater into the engine and out through the cylinder head. And this time, since the thermostat is open, a part will go back to the heater and the other part, or the main part, will go to the radiator, will be cooled down, and then come out the bottom end of the radiator back into the water pump. And once again, the water pump pulls 92% roughly from the radiator and 8% from the heater. So this is the system as it's normally as you normally have it, and this thermostat is the one without the plate. That is really just an open-close thermostat, and the system on the bitter is substantially more difficult or complicated. So this is the bitter, and also, as I mentioned several times before now, Monza Cylinder A and Rekord E injection engine setup. We do have, once again, the radiator and the heater, but also the expansion tank, more complicated thermostat housing, and a throttle body heater. When the radiator is closed, as shown here by these little interruptions, the water pump sucks water from the heater. Then also the throttle body heating branches into it, and also from the thermostat housing, but that is the same circuit. Anyway, so water is coming in from the thermostat housing, from the throttle body heater, and from the heater. It's going to be pushed in the engine, and on the warm side, it's going out of the side of the engine block. There's a port there. It does not go back to the thermostat as the easier system. It goes to the heater, then back here, and the throttle body heater also gets the water out of the cylinder head and back into the branch that goes to the water pump. And there's also a small line that goes all the way to the expansion tank. That's the one I was showing, the smallest diameter line that goes all the way across the engine or across the radiator. This port has a much smaller diameter than these two. These have the same diameter. So now on to the thermostat housing on the picture on the right, and you can see what's happening now. When the thermostat is closed, this branch, so the top, is blocked off, and if nothing goes out here, nothing goes out here, and nothing goes in here. So this is all dead, and water pump once again sucks it up into the engine, and here out of the cylinder head, and into the throttle body heater, and back into the cold heater branch. And here the warm water that does not go into the heater comes in here and goes right back down here into the water pump. That's the small circuit. And that is also shown here on the right side. So here, that is the part that goes to the top radiator hose. That is blocked off. The thermostat is closed. So the water comes out of the cylinder head and goes straight into the water pump. Out of the cylinder head and straight into the water pump. And that is the cold circuit. Also, the expansion tank has, when the engine is cold, it's trickling back here. And for continuity, I would assume that the amount flowing in here can only be what comes back here plus thermal expansion, with the water just changing volume. This is the cooling system for the hot engine. And now these three branches are not dead, so the engine pulls water from the cold side of the radiator, water pump, engine, branches off to the heater and back to the thermostat. And then, as before, going through the throttle body heater, and then out the top hose, the top port, and back to the radiator. I assume, I have not verified that, when everything is heated up and water has constant volume, I would assume that the level in the expansion tank is steady, is constant. So we are in steady state. That means that anything that goes into this port should be the same volume as what goes out of this port. And but that is an assumption. I have not verified that. And what we see here on the drawing for the thermostat housing now, as opposed to here, this little plate has expanded or has come down. It's sitting on that rim that I was showing. And now water comes from the cylinder head out to the top radiator hose. From the cylinder head out to the top radiator hose. And on the bottom, it goes straight out of the cold side of the radiator directly into the water pump. And this is the difference, this little plate. It separates the cold side from the hot side. And if that plate is not there, you're mixing cold water with hot water and putting it into an undefined state. And that would explain why the car overheats, because hot water and cold water, or hotter and cooler, is not separated as it should. So that is what this plate is for, and it is crucial to have a car that's not overheating. So you cannot use just an open-close thermostat, you have to use that type of thermostat. And now the video is going to turn into a cooking show. I haven't seen a thermostat open or close for ages, and some of you might not have seen it either. So I'm going to boil some thermostats and show you how they open and close.